In Christ Jesus, you that used to be far apart from us have been brought very close by the blood of Christ. For he is the peace between us, and has made the two into one, and broken down the barrier which used to keep them apart, actually destroying in his own person the hostility caused by the rules and decrees of the law. This was to create one single new man in himself out of the two of them, and by restoring peace through the cross, to unite them both in a single body and reconcile them with God. In his own person, he killed the hostility. Later, he came to bring the good news of peace. Peace to you who were far away, and peace to those who were near at hand. Through him, both of us have in the one Spirit our way to come to the Father. I've been making these videos pretty much every Sunday for the past 18 months or so. And I think without exception, the reflection has in some way been based on the day's gospel. But I want to break with that habit today. Instead, today, I want to look at the second reading, Paul's letter to the Ephesians, because it talks about breaking down the barriers of division, of Christ breaking down those barriers, healing division. And that's something that's been on my mind for a long time now. But it was brought to the fore by the events of last weekend. I'm sure most of you will know that last Sunday, England were beaten in the Euro 2020 final by Italy on penalties. And I'm sure you all know that almost immediately, all sorts of vile abuse was hurled at the three young men who missed penalties for England, Sancho, Saka and Rashford. The following day, social media seemed to rise up against those abusers, and rightly so. What caused such outrage was in part twofold. Missing a penalty is no reason for condemnation. Those three young men rather should be applauded, as should all the rest who took part. Despite what I would find to be unimaginable pressure, they stepped up to the plate to represent their country. And in front of 30 million viewers in the UK alone, they did their best. No, I think they should all be applauded, including the two goalkeepers, maybe particularly the two goalkeepers. But the other reason that the abuse outraged so many is because of its racist nature. The colour of someone's skin has no bearing on whether they can kick a ball, or wear an England shirt, or feed hundreds of hungry children during a pandemic. Racism has no place in a civilized society. But it did reveal that such racist attitudes are present in our society. And whether those attitudes are expressed in words or not, they can still do harm. They can still hurt. They can divide. They can damage. They prevent our society being one based on the need for peace and justice for all people. Prejudice like that's based on an ignorance, based on an intolerance, a belief that some people are more worthy than others. Worthy of what? I'm not sure. Maybe just worthy. Such prejudice isn't limited to the colour of someone's skin. It can be based on almost anything. Someone's gender or their sexuality, their creed, based on their age or their level of ability or disability, based on their nationality. If the idea that someone is somehow less because of the colour of their skin causes outrage, surely we should be equally outraged when such sentiments are expressed about people who are identified in other ways. If a phrase is offensive because it groups together people with a similar colour skin, surely we should find it equally offensive when black is replaced by Muslim or gay or women, or maybe Polish or Irish or English. See, that's something else that last weekend's football and the weeks before it football brought to mind. While many are outraged at prejudicial attitudes and sentiments expressed at all sorts of groups in the community, that we'd be offended if someone condemned black people or Muslims or gays or women or children or the elderly or the disabled or the Irish. Somehow many of the people who would be outraged find to speak of the English in similar tones is altogether more acceptable. I know of many people who watched the football over the last few weeks during the tournament and would support anyone as long as they were playing England. Their thinking was they didn't particularly want to see the other team win. They just wanted to see England get beat. But is that so different from saying, I want to see that team get beat because they're Asian, or women, or Muslim? And would that be acceptable? Or would that be likely to cause outrage too? Maybe it's a stretch to think that that kind of prejudice can be compared with the prejudice that Paul writes of in that letter between Jew and Gentile. But that prejudice, that hatred, that long-standing issue between them erected barriers between people. It caused tension and hostility and aggression. Paul talks about that barrier being removed, those divisions being healed in Christ. That's still the call for us. Whenever we allow prejudice of any form, religious, national, gender specific, whenever we allow that into our lives and into our society, we fracture the unity of the kingdom that we are called to build.